I'll wait until, perfect. The recording started just as we got to the data, which is great. So as preamble for the recording, I'm about to share data that came from our climate conversation survey. So one of the big things that came out of the climate conversation survey was an understanding of where people were seeing climate change in their lives. We tend to think about climate change that is happening over there, but from what we were capturing in the results of that survey was folks were feeling the impacts, were seeing the impacts in their life right now. And what that looked like was severe storms and weather. Heat waves this summer was a great example of that. Flooding in some of the municipalities, it was a really common story. And then high winds, winter storm events that folks shared that felt like they were more extreme than they remembered having when they were a child, for example. It also came with folks who were recognizing in this sort of shifts in weather patterns, changes to the seasons and to growing patterns for folks who were gardeners, and recognizing that different things are growing here now than might have been in, again, when they were children. Another impact of climate change that folks shared with us was feeling that water quality in the local lakes and ponds was unsafe. And that this was a phenomenon that they were observing more frequently, but that also it was impacting their ability to cope with climate change, that when it got really hot, that they were looking for blue spaces like lakes and ponds to cool down. And because of unsafe water conditions, they might not have had access to it. Another topic that folks mentioned very frequently were more allergies, ticks, and mosquitoes, whether that was because it felt that people were observing that pollen seasons were longer or there was more pollen, and noting that the mosquitoes seemed to be around, and people reflected on triple E, which was a big deal several years ago. And then also ticks, the sensation that the ticks are now an issue year round when it used to be only in the summer. And then finally, observations that it was changes in climate seems to be hitting people's pocketbooks, wallets, noting that when you go to the grocery store, not only are you noticing it in higher prices, but also in food shortages and folks sharing stories about how they see connections to news stories about interruptions in the food supply chain impacting their grocery store's availability. And I'll also note that in terms of costs, people also noted that in costs of fossil fuels as something that they saw as connected to climate change. And a huge piece of what we took away and our climate liaisons took away from this survey was just how many people who took the survey were excited and had energy and thought it was really important for their municipality, their city or town to take local action. Every five survey takers said that it was urgent or somewhat urgent that their city or town take action locally to reduce the impacts of climate change, which is a pretty overwhelming majority. And they also shared ideas for climate action. Important climate actions survey takers would like their city and town to lead included things like helping residents and community groups prepare for emergencies, helping residents, especially lower income residents, access programs for reducing energy use, whether that be in their house, as a renter, as a homeowner, as someone who was looking to get into electric vehicles. It sort of took different permutations. And then making it easier to get around without a car. Again, different folks shared their interest in public transit, a lot of focus on safe alternatives to driving, like walking and biking. And then connected to the observation that water quality seems to be getting poorer, addressing the water quality in the ponds in the city. And again, you see here in this comment, all of these are quotes that we pulled from people's feedback in the survey, but the note that if no one can safely get in the water during the hardest weeks of the summer, that's a problem. And that access to those open spaces, those blue spaces, was a frequent theme. Simultaneous to doing this survey, we talked to your municipal staff at the town of Ashland and Natick and the city of Framingham, and we thought a little bit about what are the different plans that all this information can inform. And there's a lot of jargon on this slide, so I won't go too in deep, but you'll note just there's a lot of sticky notes with this idea that climate change is not just in a climate change adaptation plan. It's something that folks saw in open space and recreation plans, in bike and pedestrian plans. And so this is information that we hope informs work outside of the sustainability department, outside of a DPW, but it's something that the municipalities, the communities can work together to take on. And so with that, I might hand it back to you, Emma and Samantha. I have the questions that we hope to ask tonight, so we can put it up as a presentation, but I'd also be very happy to let you guys just lead. Let me know what you prefer.
I think before we get into the discussion, we'd love to just do a quick round of introductions. So we're hoping that people are comfortable to speak up as we discuss these different areas of climate change. You can speak up, obviously through Zoom, or if you want to use the chat. We'll also share our emails in the chat. So if you go home and sleep the night and then you wake up and something popped into your head for one of these questions and you want to share it, please feel free to share later. And before we get in, I just want to emphasize that, as we discussed, there's no right or wrong answers. We are just interested in hearing your personal experiences and your viewpoint on these questions. But yeah, so I thought if we could go around and share just our names and maybe your favorite spot in Ashland, that'd be great. So I can start us off. Well, I already shared my name, Emma. And I would say that my favorite spot in Ashland, right now, it's probably Mill Pond Park. I really enjoy walking over the bridge there. So, Sam, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Samantha. I'm the town of Ashland Sustainability Project Manager. And I'm going to say the same spot, though I haven't walked it, but I drive past it every day, and especially with the fall foliage, I very much enjoyed that view.
Awesome. And then, yeah, so if anyone wants to speak up, feel free to unmute yourself. Again, this participation is optional, so we're not going to call on anyone here. But if anyone would like to introduce yourself, please feel free. Oh, I'm seeing some hellos in the chat, which is awesome.
I'll pipe up here if you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Miles Buchanan. I'm not sure how I got the notification on this, other than I have been involved in other organizations such as the Valentine property investigation work and so forth, and also I know Margie, some of the work that I've been doing involving in our little community here at the we have in a 55 plus community here at called Leah Estates, right next to Ashland State Park and the community center and so forth. I started up to our little community a sustainability committee, and then for the purpose of looking into what we might be able to do as a small community here to promote different things that we could do with our homes, such as can we do as a homeowner association, is there something we can do with solar energy, also heat pumps, sort of thing. So we've been looking at a variety of those types of things here locally. So I got on the list for this. I was curious about it. This is the first involvement I've had, so I'm just really short on the learning curve of what this is all about. So thank you for that. But just give my little comment about favorite place type of thing. I live right next to the Ashland State Park, and love going out there for walks around. And today was like a 10 out of 10 day for walking in the woods in New England, with my dog, and just did a very nice wander around there today. Just a perfect day. So that would be, at the moment, that's my favorite place around here to go.
Excellent. Thank you, Miles.
Hi there. I'm Shruti. I'm a water resources engineer. So I have the sort of a background in this field, I would say. I'm really excited to have this conversation. I just moved to Ashland like last month, so I don't know my favorite place yet, but that corner spot looks pretty fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Welcome.
You guys hear me? It's Rob Scher. Okay, good. Yeah, I just wanted to say hi. And for those you don't know, I'm a member of the Ashland Select Board. This is really a fascinating conversation. I'm looking forward to the rest of it. At some point, would like to hear what your plans are for going around to other groups and committees and presenting, because this is really the first time I've heard much about this. But it sounds great. My favorite, I have a number of favorite spots, but it's really the Ashland Reservoir is really, I think, the cream of the crop. I did notice, and so that's a great place I go to a lot, and a lot of other people do, of course. But it reminded me that we have a whole string of other reservoirs going towards Framingham, which really have little or no public access, and they're really quite extensive in many ways, and they're kind of a forgotten kind of public resource, which we should all try to remember a little bit about it. It's the colors there are beautiful. It's really on 135. I think it's called Brackett Reservoir, if I remember right, across from the new public safety building. So that's kind of an interesting spot to think about in terms of public access and, potential future recreation. All right, thank you all.
Hi, this is Margie Gassell, and some of you know I'm a member of the Sustainability Committee, and so I thought it would be a good idea for me to participate in this meeting tonight. And I'm wondering if there will be an opportunity later for questions about the survey. Okay, thank you.
I also, for those who are interested, dropped the project website in there where you can find all the survey results and even all the open answer questions organized by theme.
I'm now recalling that on our little agenda, we did have space for questions after your presentation, Sharon, and I rolled us right into discussion. So maybe, unless anyone else would like to introduce themselves. Okay. Maybe we can open the floor for questions specifically about the survey and the results, and then we can move into our further discussion. So yeah, Margie, if you had a question.
Yeah, I was curious to know if you analyzed the demographics of the respondents and what you've found.
We did. We had information. Welcome, Florence. We were just talking about survey data. Fascinating topic. So we collected data on age, how the participants reported their own race and ethnicity. And I think that might have been it. We really limited the questions because our resident researchers were administering a lot of these in person and didn't feel comfortable asking too detailed of questions. And we found that in respect to age and race and ethnicity, the breakdown of survey participants was almost exactly the same as the census data for the municipalities. The one significant difference was we didn't include a youth survey or an effort to connect with youth on this survey. And because of that, we had no one under 18 take the survey.
Okay, thank you. So you don't know that the respondents actually live in the areas that have been designated as EJ communities?
No, we did not. So what we used as an equivalent of proxy for that was we looked at the surveys that our resident researchers who all lived in those neighborhoods and primarily did outreach amongst their network and neighbors. We looked at those results separate from the results of the overall survey, which also got pushed out on social media and websites and postcards.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and I'll note that the postcards went specifically to the EJ communities as well. So those were not town or citywide. Those were inviting people to take the survey, and they only went to roughly the EJ communities.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions on the survey or the survey results?
Sure, just maybe you could talk a little bit about how the environmental justice community was defined and what the definition is.
Sharon, do you want to take that one, or?
Yeah, I would be happy to. So we used the definition that's defined by the state. So the one that was primarily defined by census data. So home communities that were home to residents of color, so non-white residents, low-income individuals, and English isolated households. So when you looked at that map, that outlined a census tract that met one of those three criteria, and in some case, multiple of those criteria. And I will also say that that's the census demographic. And we also, by reaching out to residents, our residents researchers, we recruited from a program that did English as a second language for adult learners, with the hope that we were getting at some of those English isolated households. And we did targeted outreach to groups that served lower income residents to also recruit residents, with the idea that, again, we didn't feel comfortable asking people to report things like that. But the hopes of, if you're working in these or you're attending these groups, that you have a network that might represent our environmental justice communities, and recognizing that those communities are facing higher exposures historically and currently to the harms of pollution and climate change.